I don't need an open statement, right? Because of the home stretch.
Some of the rules changes. You addressed the helmet one, but the onside kick, and also with kickers and the touchbacks to the 25 now, if you have a good kicker, I think you mentioned it in the spring, are you going to try to pop it up?
I do. It was kind of interesting. Myself and Troy Calhoun, who's head coach of Air Force, sit on that rules committee, and there was a lot of discussion. Division II's in there, and Division III, and it was kind of interesting because we kind of tabled it, went back and talked to our coaches, and it was probably one of the few times I've ever had a offensive and a defensive staff both agree that if you can kick the ball out of the end zone as a touchback and take the ball on 25 every time you do it, just because we've really felt that if you try to bring it out, the chances of something bad happening, a penalty or a turnover, or you don't get to the 25, you say you catch the ball 2 yards deep in the end zone, you got to return it 27 yards without a missed assignment to just break even. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about it, but I know what we'll probably do. And now if we got a guy that can do a nice game kick, and he can land it, Taylor used to be able to do a nice sky kick, land it anywhere between the 5 and the 10, and we'd maximize that. The other one I think is going to be a huge factor is the kickoff rule in itself. You no longer can do that surprise onside and underprotected with the thing, but all players have to line up within 5 yards of the kick point, and that's really going to affect. We actually practiced that quite a bit during the spring just because of the timing factor.
What was Purdue's reaction when you called about moving that game?
I agreed to it, and I didn't actually make the call, so I can't speak to that per se, but I was very grateful because I really wanted to get that BYU game in there. Just for us to move forward, I've been trying to get a second FBS, BCS more important, type caliber team on our roster. So that year it's going to be Arizona, BYU, and obviously we had to get Tennessee Tech in there, but hopefully some even bigger and better things are coming down the line.
Do you think the conference is headed in that direction, or what you want to do playing an early conference game?
You know what? I think they're meeting on it today. I got to be careful. I can't be the spokesman too often, but it is something. I actually reached out to 4 or 5 league coaches on it and kind of was trying to get their opinion on it.
You're hopeful that will happen?
Yeah, I like it. Obviously I got it with Purdue. It's the 4th game, not by choice, but I remember specifically having, I believe we had a late game, and they put up the Big Ten schedule that week, and it was the 3rd week of the season, and we were playing, I believe, a MAC team, and it showed everybody else, nobody else was in that boat. And then I started doing some research, and you look at a lot of possibly SEC-type schools, when you look at the last 3 weeks of the season, and you see the type of teams that they're playing, because it's not always SEC, but it doesn't draw much attention because everybody's focused on maybe the Wisconsin-Michigan game or other bigger games.
You mentioned Kirk Ferentz being your other statesman with that team this morning. Why do you think he's been able to have such a longevity?
Well, I worked for him for 3 years, so I know what he's all about. He's a true man. I think the more I'm in this profession, the guys that are consistent in everything they do can have success, and Kirk's that guy. Kirk's the same guy every day of the year and is a really good ball coach. So I think that's probably why he's in a great situation. I think part of head coaching success, you got to find the right environment to be the head coach. Certain things just aren't going to mix. I know myself, for instance, there's certain environments I know I wouldn't be able to have success in just because of who I am and the way I want to be.
Fitzgerald was asking there about the 8 or 9 game schedule, and he said he didn't think it would come up for discussion immediately here, but he prefers 8 conference games.
Well, first, I don't think Fitz or I will be in the room when it's discussed. It's going to be somebody else's decision. So I do think, though, there's some scheduling things out there. For instance, for us to move forward with that BYU announcement, there's other things we wanted to tie into it, but they go past the moratorium of the 17 that we're supposed to wait and hold on. So it was kind of like we were holding for 17 because we were going to go to 9, but then the Pac-12 thing fell through. So now it's where are we going from this point forward?
But your feelings on 8 or 9? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I would like to stay at 8, just because I think the recipe is there. The SEC has the 8, and they've won 6 in a row. I do enjoy playing non-conference opponents. I realize fan base may want 9 or 10 or play us all, but I also believe it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we've been able to have some success, 2 back-to-back BCS games. I like that formula.
Would you like to be a
strong for rivalry with end of the season rivalry with Penn State, given where Penn State's at, what the energy
Well, I don't think you can.
What we're trying to do.
The reason I try to do it, Tom, more than anything is because of the history of both schools. More importantly, Penn State has a longer history of winning than Wisconsin. And, we already have a league-ending game with Ohio State and Michigan that gets a lot of national acknowledgement and recognition. I just think Wisconsin's won a lot of football games here in the last 10 years. What can we do to join it? So that's when I approached Coach Alvarez, approached the Big Ten office. Coach Alvarez really reached out to Penn State about making it always that game, and then also possibility of tying in some type of trophy to that type of, something of significance. And I don't think that's diminished. I understand they're on a 4-year probation and, going through some significant sanctions, but you can't erase the history that is there, in people's minds more important.
How difficult? What do you face?
I really don't know.
I deal with scholarships on a regular basis.
I would say this, the two hardest things that I deal with non-football wise are scholarship counts and scheduling. And that obviously has a significant impact on your program. For instance, Jordan Gahoot, how could I foresee, that he wasn't going to be here? Now that's a 2-year guy. I was looking forward to being a player the next 2 years and a great player. So now that affects your recruiting, your scholarship numbers. A guy that's in limbo, John Budmeyer, he hadn't played for a long time. Kurt Phillips, I'm happy Kurt's alive and doing so well, because at one point I didn't know if he played a game again. And now I know he's going to be challenging for the starting quarterback position. So that's the part that's hard and difficult more than anything.
You spend a lot more time on scheduling than you used to?
It's probably been about the same time. My first year I was kind of oblivious, just because you were trying to, Coach kind of still had the reins on that one. And then at some point, that's when I kind of took it over with Mark and worked closely with John, in the past. And obviously working with Frazier now.
Would you like to be a leader in the conference in that area? Because you've got some strong opinions on scheduling.
I don't want to take a leadership role in our conference on that, but I do know it's very, very important. I don't want to have a passive view, or to me, this is my profession. This is my livelihood. This is how I make a living, and scheduling has a huge impact on your chances of longevity and success. So yeah, I take it very, very personally.
You mentioned the departure of KCD and that there are guys waiting in the wings. How many legitimate candidates are there, and how deep do you want to go into camp before you get that 5 solidified?
I think both guard spots. I mean, obviously Ryan's been there, but Kyle Costigan was very impressive to me through 15 spring practices, and he's probably pound for pound one of the strongest players on our team. Him and Freddie, and I know just certain guys have been very forthcoming to me about how well Costi's come along, even during the summer months. A couple other guys that could pop into that spot, Tyler Merritt's, who's played tackle and guard for us. A guy that was very impressive, Dan Bolts, in the spring. And a guy that's kind of transitioned and changed his body that you're not going to believe when you see him is Robbie Burge. He's a guy that, was at about 325, 330 pounds. He looks like he weighs 285 now, but he weighs the exact same. He's just changed his body, and I really think he could be one of those seniors that has that special senior year that, you're looking for.
How deep do you go into camp? Do you want to go into camp before you get that 5 solidified?
Well, obviously Mike has, drawn some new comparisons too. Dallas Llewellyn is another guy that Dallas hasn't been there, and if he can jump into that role, he's going to start fall camp. He may not be able to go full go all the way right away, but he's a guy, 2 years ago I thought was going to be the next great one. So it would be nice to get him back out there.
Do you think Kurt Phillips is a viable contender?
I do, Tom, and I'm kind of the same way as you, given that, because A, you haven't seen him for 2 years, and B, it's a third ACL, but the kid is just, I'm sure when you guys talk to him, he's so mentally strong. He graduated, he did what Danny did. He graduated in 3 years and wants to be I believe he wants to be a dentist down the line. I mean, he's just so smart and gifted and talented as a human being. That's probably what's willed him back to where he is. And I know that doctors, feel very strong. He's been fully cleared 100%. Everything going on.
In the spring, he just lacked confidence and couldn't plan.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not a quarterback, and he probably has much ability to coach a quarterback, but he couldn't transition a lot. Now, life gets real when bodies are around you. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. He will be a guy that will probably have to, during double days, he may not be able to do both. I know he's not going to want to do that, but I think one thing is you're dealing with the knee is once they flare up, they become an issue. If you can keep them as a non-issue, that's a good thing.
Can you update us on DJ Singleton?
DJ Singleton? DJ is hopefully going to join us in January. There's still some things that we have to go through and clear up, so he hasn't been fully cleared yet.
I know you have all the faith in the world in Kurt Phillips, but how difficult would it be to have faith in Kurt Phillips at this point? Say if he was your starting quarterback, given everything that's happened.
One clear conscience I have, Tom, more than anything, is when I'm recruiting a young man, I look at him and I tell him in front of his parents and say, there's two things I can assure you. The first is I can't promise him playing time or a degree, but I'm going to give you everything I can to get both. The second thing is I'll never put your son in harm's way. And there's a certain belief in me that with faith in our doctors that if he's clear to go, I don't have any issues or worries. I mean, I wouldn't put him out there going, holding back. I think for me, coming off a couple of knee surgeries, it plays within yourself, but from the outside world, once he's cleared, I don't think that will.
This is a season where Ricky Wagner's name, I mean, I know he's top 10 projected, but in terms of nationally, he really gets his name out there on just the college football.
Ricky's so soft-spoken, and he's been kind of a quiet storm. And I will, that's a big deal move from right tackle to left tackle. He did it fairly well. I think this year he's going to have a huge jump. In my opinion, two great players that are going to have great jumps. It's going to be Ricky Wagner, and then I really feel that Chris Borland's going to have a huge jump at Mike, just because it's a different position. And people last year, all the experts were telling me that he should move him from outside to inside, and he played really well. I think another year in the inside, it's going to jump leaps and bounds. I really do. Those are two guys that I think could take big jumps.
You talked about the challenges with scholarships, with the success that you guys have had in 2012 with limited numbers and this year with limited numbers, just the challenge that you guys have had with a lot of guys wanting to come in, but you guys just don't have the numbers.
Well, it's challenging because there's kind of like a pecking order, and you want your best ones to offer first, so it's a really difficult thing to work through in recruiting. I think the way that we've been able to gray shirt guys is an important factor into that. But the proof is in voting down the road. We'll really know how good we were 2 years from now. That stuff.
Anything specific you've heard about Daniel O'Brien through the grapevine from the guys? Traits about how he's approaching things, or his personality-wise?
I know he's living with a couple linemen, so I think he made some good choices there. He's got a pretty neat personality to him. I've seen him in the hallway half a dozen times, but all the kids seem to gravitate him very, very well. All of our, it's one of those situations I kind of appreciated when we were going through the rotation in there that. All of my three guys, when they were asked about Danny, they all kind of said, well, we know Coach would never bring in someone that doesn't fit our family, and that's something those guys heard during recruiting, and it's something that they know I'm not going to bring in someone that rocks the boat overly hard, at least not knowingly. I mean, everybody can get fooled, but usually that stuff comes out. I haven't, I was actually very shocked when that happened, and I saw some people wrote about it. You can actually still get on, by playing your way into it. So, but that one's couldn't figure that one out, especially when I saw some of the other names. I'm a little biased though.
The numbers are there. The performance is there.
And you know what, Mike is probably as big and as fast and strong. He's already played at a high level. That's why I'm not taking anything away when I say I just think Chris playing a Mike lineman can make a big jump as powerful as he is.
One more scheduling thing.
Yeah.
When you go to the 14 playoff, do you think that's going to improve stronger?
It has to.
schedule?
It has to. I think the worst thing you could be is be there and be maybe a 12-1 team or whatever it is, and maybe you didn't. The one game you lost was in your division, and you lost to the guy that wins the Big Ten championship, and you're sitting there 12-1, and you won in that game. But on the same side, it has to. I think it has to be one away, one home. There's all those dynamics, and I don't mean to sound like a compliment. Madison is not an appealing place to get teams to come to. I don't mean to slide anybody's opinion. It just really is. I've had a lot of opportunities where teams would say, "Oh yeah, we'll play," but it's not going to be that. Or to go to a neutral field, and I don't want to take a home game away from us to go to a neutral field. It takes away from the fans. If you can make the dates work, the hard part is making the dates work and being able to get a team to come on this specific date. I believe the Tennessee Tech game this year was a byproduct of San Diego State pulling out of a two-game series. It was a 3-for-1 or 2-for-1, and they backed out after the first one. So that kind of threw that whole thing into a tailspin. It's just so hard to make dates work on the front end, especially in the first 4 weeks.
You've got 3 walk-on quarterbacks. Do you get the numbers up there?
When Ethan Armstrong's brother's walking on. We have another walk-on from Wisconsin, a walk-on from California. When Matt first came here, in the spring, we had 2 quarterbacks, and we didn't know if Kurt was going to make it back. We didn't know if John was going to make it back, and we just felt we wanted to have 5 quarterbacks in camp. So, we got to. Only 5 will come to camp. Work through the rest of it.